错了。
你也太坚持了吧，追20分钟。
哎，不会期待我汉堡蛋哎。
你也真的很坚持哎。
你知道我打开是什么吗？
哦
，Fridays 的汉堡啊。
这样不是赚到了吗？
我的蛋呢？
你到底有多在意蛋啊？
哎，旁边还有什么你知道吗？
哦
，10万块现金。
10万块现金，
有中副餐？
这绝对不是副餐吧？等一下，先生，那个东西可能不是很干净，你要小心一点哦。
哦，真的哦，好久还没有开动。
你要吃它啊。
没有，我说还没有动那笔钱啊。
我跟你讲，那个笔钱最好拿去警察局比较好，因为我觉得。
哎，不好意思，不好意思，哇，终于找到你了，哇，看到你家门口没有看到你啊，真的不好意思。
哎，该不会？
啊，我刚送错餐了，不好意思，不好意思。
这位。
啊？
哦，对，哦，是你，不是你哎。
啊，不好意思，两个长太像了，没有认出来。
我怎么可能长像你们2个啊？
不要，不好意思啊，不好意思，我刚送错餐了，来，这是你的汉堡蛋，对，
放在口袋吗？哦，
对，汉堡蛋。然后刚刚我送错那一份，啊，你不要介意，你就吃掉吧，吃掉没有？
真的吗？
真的，
谢谢，
不好意思啊。
哎，等一下，哎，那个10万块，
啊？哦，那10万块很干净。
骗谁啊？
就是他没有金流的，就是很干净。
可以这样讲的吗？
我不需要啊，就留着用，留着用。
可以这样子的哦，等一下。
真的哎，那我帮你把评价改成4颗星哦。
这样还只有4颗星而已哦。
好啊，谢谢你。那最后我提醒你一下，里面那个白色的调味粉哦，你酌量使用哈。
那个绝对不是调味粉呐。
哎，不好意思，哎，我刚刚又送错了啦，那个刚刚
太紧。哇哦。多久？
我以为你要演下去。
你要演多久？
换东西而已。好。
强制结束，强制结束这氛围很屌哦。好，第2条开始抽大纸条，每轮2个人哦，每次都剪刀石头布头。
好，来，
剪刀石头布。
哇，好啦，送到你 ，OK。干嘛？
速战速决。
哎，速战速决哦。
速战速决，来一个。
速决。速战速决是某一种节日吗？
他这个不叫名词，叫速战速决。
只就定义这是潮语相应，好不好？潮哈力式相应。
你就鸭嘴而已啊。
那故乡只有你一个。
Yes, and he did too. And then he seemed fine when I said goodbye to him. He seemed calm, and I left and went home. And then it was several hours later in the middle of the night that I got the call.
And it was his friend.
And he says, "Can I come over and sleep on your couch? If I don't leave my house right now, I'm going to kill her." He was in this,
WNYC.
Yep.
Hey, this is Radio Lab. I'm Latif Nasser, joined by producer Sindhu Nyanasambandan.
Hey, Latif.
And what do you got?
Okay, so this one, it starts when this guy, Jay Menard, joined my meditation group.
Okay.
We're also both journalists. And so, one day we started talking about the kinds of stories we are drawn to.
Uh-huh.
And, we're both Buddhist, so we're interested in, impermanence, interconnection, and suffering, death.
And why death and suffering? Why is that a Buddhist,
Well, the idea is that when you look at the things that scare you, there's actually a chance for kind of a deeper truth to show itself.
Huh.
Anyway, it was this whole conversation, and then at some point we realized in our own attempts to find this kind of story, we've actually both been tracking the same guy.
Well, really?
Hey, how are you all?
Hi,
Wayne.
This guy, Wayne Shung.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
See you.
So that's Jay. We actually ended up calling Wayne up together.
Great. He was in California at the time.
Oliver.
Oliver's there? That's your dog?
His dog was there.
Oliver. Come here, buddy.
Oh.
Good boy, Oliver. You're so happy.
This little mutt.
He's from China.
And once Oliver settled down, Wayne started telling us about, oddly enough, his childhood dog.
So, I was not a very popular kid, not a very well-adjusted kid. I was fat. I was an immigrant. Did not have any social skills. I didn't speak English that well.
So Wayne grew up in this small little town in Indiana as one of the only Chinese kids.
Okay.
Had a lot of trouble in the friend department. But his family did have this dog.
And this dog was just the love of my life. Her name was Vivian, and
This like black Labrador mutt.
every time when I came home from school, she literally jumps up and down, out of control. Vivian would cherish my every moment. Like, she would cherish every part of me and didn't care about how fat I was and how dorky I was. She just loved me. But when I was, I believe, 9 years old, we went back to China for the first time.
Like they were taking a family trip.
Okay.
My main kind of recollection from that trip was relatively early on. We were in southern China, and we went to this restaurant. They're called, I think they're called, the translation is something like a Wild Earth restaurant.
It's like a vegan restaurant or something like that?
No, the opposite.
Oh.
It's like, you know, when you go to the seafood restaurant where all the animals are like alive in these like aquariums and you can pick what you want.
Right.
It's like that, except like there's every kind of animal.
One of the things we saw was like a monkey in a cage,
Oh, wow.
like with a chain around his neck. But then, like, I heard barking from the back of the restaurant,
He like turns around.
and I saw a little black dog, you know, probably like 30 or 40 pounds, just huddled in a cage.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and remember, he's like a 9-year-old kid.
I remember just feeling like someone was killing my dog. I like grabbed my dad's legs and just started weeping uncontrollably, and I kept asking him, "Dad, we have to stop them. We have to stop them. We have to help." And I still remember the words he told me, which were, "Son, this is just what they're taught, and there's nothing for us to do." In Chinese culture, you do what you're taught. There's this Chinese term, guai, that every kid in Chinese culture wants to be guai. And all the parents, everybody thought I was like the most guai kid, because whatever the adults told me to do, I'd always do it. I was a very, very compliant child. And this is the first time I realized not everything that I'm taught is right. And that sense of distrust ended up being very important to the next 30 plus years of my life.
So Wayne grows up, goes off to college, reads Peter Singer's Animal Liberation, becomes a vegan, goes on to law school, becomes a law professor. Wow. But it wasn't until years later that he finally stopped following the rules and started figuring out how to do the thing that he had wanted to do all those years ago in that restaurant in China.
Let me show you a photo of what's happening inside this farm. Our activists were in this farm as recently as a couple days ago.
He co-founds this group called Direct Action Everywhere.
Folks, we're about to march into a massive factory farm to the heart of darkness and hell.
Among other things, they break into factory farms and videotape everything to show people what the farm is like inside.
The only way to make this violence stop is for people to take direct action.
And, you know, they've done this like dozens of times. Like their videos have gotten thousands of views. And in 2017, one of their videos gets published by the New York Times.
So Circle 4 is a farm that processes and kills 1.2 million pigs every year.
So Wayne's standing in this kind of scrubby desert field at twilight with 4 other guys.
Paul's going to be manning the camera. The rest of you are going to help me with logistics and supplies.
And just over the hill behind them is this enormous pig farm owned by Smithfield Foods, one of the largest pork producers in the world.
Our main objective today is exposure, to show the world what's actually happening behind these closed doors. So you all ready to go? You ready to go? Let's do this.
Then the video cuts to night.
All right, folks, we're about to head into Circle 4. This is the heart of evil.
They flip their headlamps on and go in.
This facility is massive. Even just this one barn, you can see down here, aisle after aisle after aisle.
So they're walking around, filming things, and eventually they come across a litter of piglets.
And this little piglet in the corner here's face is covered in blood, and she's down on the ground.
And this time, they take 2 of the piglets out with them.
And, you know, after the video got published in the New York Times, Smithfield issued a statement saying they'd commissioned this third-party audit of the farm that found no evidence of animal mistreatment. And they accused Wayne of editing the video to make the farm look bad. They also called the cops, and Wayne got charged with multiple felonies.
2 counts of burglary and 1 count of felony theft.
each of which could lead to years in prison.
Yeah.
And so Wayne eventually heads to trial, and it's there that he does something we really didn't expect. Like something sort of the opposite of what we thought someone like him would do.
Yeah, this weird legal maneuver that forces the jury and really all of us to look at this thing we don't normally want to look at. This messy, kind of impossible question about our relationship with animals.
Welcome. We're on record in the matter of State versus Wayne Chung.
The trial begins on October 3rd, 2022 in Western Utah.
5-0.
We're in this Cherrywood courtroom.
The state is prepared to go forward.
On one side, you have the prosecution, a man and a woman, both attorneys for the state.
Mr. Shaw.
And then on the defense, Wayne.
Oh, he's representing himself.
Yeah.
Huh.
And he told us that
Let's get the jury in.
he was feeling pretty nervous.
Because you're waiting for these people who are going to decide your fate to come in.
All rise for the jury.
The jury files into their seats, 8 people, men and women, all locals, of course. And this is like a 75% Trump County. Like, Smithfield is one of the biggest employers in the area.
Oof, not great odds.
Yeah, I mean, a lawyer he talked to had, like, begged him to take a plea.
She described the situation as hopeless.
No kidding.
But he wanted the fight.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury.
So the trial begins with prosecution.
The facts in this case will show
They argue basically
that, among other things,
this is simple.
Mr. Wayne Chung entered an unauthorized area owned by Smithfield Farms
Wayne broke into the farm,
without permission of the owners, removing 2 of the pigs,
took 2 piglets.
stealing.
You know, there's really no question about
They
it.
actually filmed themselves doing it,
We have it on video.
then posted the video online.
Then
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
it's Wayne's turn.
Against the advice of pretty much all the attorneys I've talked to, I'm going to tell you exactly what we did when I questioned.
And he says it's true.
I did remove 2 piglets from Smithfield Foods on the night of March 7th, 2017.
I did it.
Curious strategy for a defense attorney.
Exactly.
Well, you know, Wayne says for better or worse.
You weren't trying to hide what we had done.
Like, in fact, he's like,
You know, the video should just play with the court.
play the video.
And the prosecution is basically like,
We have an order from the court that we will not talk about
no, we're not showing the video. And Wayne's like, no, come on, like, I want you to show the jury what happened.
Why can't he play the video?
Yeah, well, like, the prosecution argues that showing it would bias the jury against the farm.
You can already hear the screams of the pigs inside.
And when you watch it,
They're suffering. We're going to try and expose what's actually happening inside.
you can understand why. It's this dark, endless building filled with hundreds and hundreds of pigs in row on row of steel cages, not much larger than their bodies.
These mother pigs are desperate to get out of the crates. They're smashing their heads up against these crates to the point that they have swelling on their faces, cuts on their faces.
And the prosecution was like, that's not what this is about.
The judge said over and over again, Smithfield's not on trial, Mr. Shum. You are.
But, like, you know, like, the whole reason Wayne showed up in court and admitted what he did is that he can't actually put Smithfield on trial.
Huh.
Because an animal doesn't have rights like a person.
You can't file a legal complaint on their behalf.
Right.
But if Wayne gets arrested doing one of these rescues,
Thrusting ourselves in the position of the animal.
then his thought is, I can put Smithfield on trial through, you know, having
By
him
putting
come after
myself
me.
on trial.
Yeah.
I see.
So even though they rule that he cannot show the video,
Mr. Topman, my name is Wayne Chung, defendant and counsel in this case. I'm going to ask you a few questions to follow up on what Mr. Christensen asked you. Is that all right?
No problem.
whenever he starts questioning a witness,
Mr. Topping, you testified that you viewed a video of intrusions into farms.
you see him kind of sneaking in
You have no knowledge of this intrusion prior to that video?
little details about the conditions of the farm,
That's probably because there are lots of piglets in Smithfield.
basically trying to get them to just
In fact, there are thousands of pigs, even at a single farm like yours, correct?
Describe what was in the video.
It's also true that among those thousands of pigs, many of those piglets end up dying before they reach slaughter, correct?
Object at this point.
But when he does that,
It's relevant to the case.
the prosecution objects.
Sustaining the objection.
And then
You said previously that you cannot see the piglets inside because the building is completely enclosed, correct?
Wayne tries again.
Did you agree?
Your Honor, I think the line of questioning we're going down is leading us toward our management practice.
The prosecution objects again.
So then I'll ask you just about gestation.
But
alarms.
Wayne does the same
There
thing
are
again.
thousands of dead piglets at Smithfield Foods at any given one time, correct?
Another objection.
Sustained.
And
If animals at Smithfield do have injuries or disease, they are often discarded, correct?
Wayne just keeps doing this.
And piglets that are discarded into dumpsters, presumably these piglets are not sold for meat, correct? Your Honor, I'm just trying to
It's
establish.
sustained. I don't want you mentioning that again.
Wayne's obviously getting nowhere.
Your Honor, I'm just trying to establish.
I have sustained the objection.
He's pissing off the judge,
I thought Wayne was a little cocky.
and not just the judge.
He's either, really full of himself, hopelessly outmatched, or both.
We talked to a few of the jurors.
Oh wow, amazing.
Yeah, and they said at this point, it didn't even seem like Wayne was acting like a real lawyer.
He's an activist.
People close down freeways just to get their point out there. I actually think that does a disservice, at least to me.
They felt that he was kind of using this trial to grandstand.
I wasn't particularly happy about being tied up for a week.
And most of them, they just wanted to get this over with
We need to be out of here by Saturday for game day.
and go watch football.
Utah's playing UCLA this weekend, so that's kind of my focus was just getting done through this.
Whatever we can do to speed this along, we're gonna do it.
Oh man.
So, Wayne's strategy to make this about Smithfield, it's really not working. But then
The first piglet, Lily, was suffering a very serious foot injury.
he starts to focus on these two particular piglets that he took, which he names Lily and Lizzie.
Okay.
She was starving to the point that she was approximately 1/4 the normal size.
Objection, Your Honor. Still talking about the conditions on the animal.
The prosecution objects like always.
This is about me and the piglet. It was really awesome.
But this time, the judge allows it.
This is a piglet who had wounds all
Huh, why?
Yeah, because Wayne is being charged with theft, right?
Right.
And in order for him to be convicted of theft, the law says the thing he took has to be worth something.
Huh.
So at the very least, he has to be able to talk about the objects he took.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
So then
Tell us about these two individual pigs and the condition.
Wayne starts to make this case that, these piglets, they're malnourished. They're really sick.
It shows the diarrhea was explosive.
He calls a veterinarian to the stand
Kirsten Rosenberg.
who argues
I don't think she had more than a 5% chance of surviving.
the piglets probably weren't going to make it without the attention of a vet, which, isn't cheap.
It would cost a minimum of $315 to give her the care that she needed.
And when you compare that to the monetary value of the piglet to the farm,
What would be the value of a 10 to 12 pound piglet?
which another vet had testified was about $40.
$42.20.
If you do the math, these piglets would have been worth negative $272.
Whoa, huh? So the money to rehabilitate them was more than the money that they were worth at the time.
Exactly. Which Wayne argued would mean he didn't technically commit theft.
Huh. Wow, what a weird move. It's like he clearly values the piglet because he broke into the farm to save it, but then now he's in court arguing that it actually has no value, less than no value, just so he won't get in trouble?
Yeah, but it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
So at one level, yes, he's saying that they don't have value, like a dollar value, but at the same time, he's also saying that they kind of have this different kind of value, as living beings who can suffer.
I'm going to move now to exhibit 3.
And in particular, he's arguing the farm, they don't see the pigs this way.
This is video footage of Lizzie the piglet shortly after we first
You
saw
can
her.
really see this happening in this one moment where Wayne is trying to introduce this clip of one of the piglets.
And what does the video show? It shows Leslie's blood-covered face.
Ugh.
And, the prosecution objects, like always,
Your Honor, the state objects. We have
saying, the blood on the piglet's face, that could have come from the mother. It's not really about her.
the health of the piglet clearly depends on its relationship with the mom. So I don't know. It's
Right, you can't actually separate these things, but
That's
like the
right.
judge is doing everything he can to
right.
try to do that. Like at one point he watches the video, like when the jury's not in the room, and he's like, okay, well,
Look, this is my concern. I'm not sure it's appropriate to show the sow.
we shouldn't see the mom. So how about you just like print out a still shot and then cut out the piglet?
That's what I will allow you.
So weird.
I was just sitting at the defense table with a pair of scissors, cutting out 8 little paper piglets. Looked like something from a second grade art class. And I just thought to myself, this is just stranger than fiction.
Whoa. And when the jury got these little cutout pictures,
Hey, you group of adults who are all over the age of 30, we're not going to let you see this because it can be too upsetting and it can be too biasing. And I just, it pissed me off.
I remember holding this paper in my hands, looking at it as Wayne's describing it. I thought, why'd you have to cut the paper?
they told us at this point they started to think, like, what is it you don't want us to see here?
Yeah.
That's when I started to question, wait a minute, if this is so clear cut, you should be able to lay out all the facts and let us make an educated decision.
But before they could make any decision, we got the closing arguments.
I think it's clear that the pigs were stolen.
The prosecution says
Imagine the use of the word rescue in some other context.
the piglets did have value to the farm. Like, even if they were sick, you can't just take them.
Suppose you were in the grocery store and you saw a can with dents in it.
They compared the piglets to a dented can.
The runt piglets are dented cans.
Exactly. And, like, you can't just take a dented can from a store.
Now I gotta rescue that can, put it in my purse, take it
Right.
to the store.
Okay. But in Wayne's closing argument, after all this talk about economic value and these piglets being technically worth less than nothing, Wayne kind of just leaves that behind entirely and says, you should just acquit me because I did the right thing. These piglets deserve to be saved.
If you defend our rights to give aid to dying animals, defend the right of all citizens to die in sick and injured animals, companies will be a little more compassionate to the creatures under their stewardship. Governments will be a little more open to animal cruelty complaints. Maybe, just maybe, a baby pig like Lily won't have to starve to death on the floor of a factory farm.
The trial comes to a close. And after that, it's in the hands of the jury.
So if we're thinking about this almost like 12 Angry Men, in the room, where were people's positions?
The room was split about 50-50.
There was one that was not guilty, 2 that were pretty sure they were guilty, and then there was this mix in the middle of unsure.
And where were you in that?
I was the unsure.
I wasn't sure what I was going to do and whose side I was on.
Okay.
And since it's a criminal case, they need a unanimous vote.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay, so they first decide they're going to tackle the burglary charge. And the technical definition of burglary, they're told, is
You're in a place that you're not supposed to be with the intent to take something of value.
And, they'd actually seen that part of the video where Wayne is, like, outside the farm giving his team instructions. And he says,
If we find an animal in need, we'll do what we have to do. If.
And this if, they argue, like, it frees him from intent.
We unanimously agreed you couldn't charge them with the burglary.
So, burglary, done. Next, they have theft.
You did take the thing.
He took the thing.
Yeah.
But remember, like, theft requires proving that the thing that was taken has, quote, value. Was it monetary value or just value?
Just value.
Oh.
So yeah, they just said it has to have value.
And you have to keep in mind here, there's 2 types of value in the room. Okay. There's the economic value,
Right.
which, if you took this argument that it was 0 or even negative, would get him off the hook.
Correct.
But also this other kind of value, like the inherent value of a living thing, a being. And Wayne obviously believes in this. It's what motivated him to take the piglets in the first place. And if the piglets have that kind of value, then the law says he should be guilty.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's a paradox.
Like the logic flips. Yeah.
Right. Bizarre.
It's a conundrum.
The question becomes like, what kind of value are we talking about here?
Right.
And so they're like, okay, well maybe we just ask the judge.
You know, we went and talked to the bailiff and we said, hey, we've got a question. Can we go give this to the judge for them to talk about? And so our question was,
Who determines the value of the pig? To whom? Is it to Smithfield? Is it to Wayne?
is it us? Is it the free trade market? Is it the New York Stock Exchange? Value to whom?
And
We actually asked if we could all go outside into that locked parking lot that we had all been driving into all week and just get some fresh air while they deliberated.
They're asked to come back and they're handed a paper that has the response and
From the judge.
and what that paper says is
It's for you to decide.
Oh,
um
they're missing that game.
yeah. And like this to me is like sort of crazy. It's like, how is there no answer to this question?
We will watch the jury try to find one and try to find some answers ourselves right after we take a very quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, Lulu here, and this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as someone who reports on mental health, who likes talking to people about their mental health and what they look to in science, in the natural world, in faith, in friendship, wherever it may be, to help guide them through the rough patches of life, I just wanted to take a moment to say what seems to help people turn corners, find relief, get out of ruts, and even flourish is having someone with you. As much as we can feel private about our mental health struggles, you do not have to go it alone. So this May, why not treat your mental health to a buddy? And who better to talk to than a fully licensed mental health therapist? With over 30,000 therapists available, BetterHelp has someone you can talk to available at pretty much any time that's convenient for you at the push of a button. And because finding the help you need often depends on the therapist-client vibe, rest assured, with BetterHelp, you can switch providers at any time. Remember, truly, your mental health matters, and you don't have to go it alone. Find the support you need anytime with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/radiolab. That's betterhelp.com/radiolab.
Each story you hear on Planet Money starts with a question. What happens if we refund tariffs? Why are groceries so expensive? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious because the forces shaping our world can be hard to see. Follow NPR's Planet Money wherever you get your podcasts and start seeing how the economy really works.
Welcome back. This is Radiolab. Animal rights activist Wayne Sheng is still on trial for theft, and the jury has asked the judge to clarify what it means for piglets to have quote-unquote value so they can help make their decision. And in response, the judge has basically shrugged.
Yeah, we actually ran the situation by
Justin Marceau, and I'm a law professor at the University of Denver.
Kristen, still at Harvard Law School, a couple animal law professors. It's kind of crazy to me that there isn't a clear definition. Value seems like such a vague term.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, it rarely comes up.
Justin, he told us, like, basically with any other object,
The value is set. The value is fixed. We know how much your car is worth. We can figure out how much your printer is worth. We can figure out how much your computer is worth. But
when you ask that same question about animals,
our intuition tells us that an animal is nothing like a couch. It's nothing like a car. It's, not even really like a family heirloom.
it gets weird.
Like, that's a strange scenario.
Because this value question, like, it quickly gets us to this much bigger question.
What is an animal in the law?
Like, what even are they?
That's a big question. That is the big question.
Yeah. I like it. It's a great question.
And how you answer this question is about value, sure, but also about whether they deserve protection or have rights. Okay? So legal scholars have actually come up with
3 big buckets.
This three-part framework.
3 ways of thinking about these questions.
And the first is
They are property.
they are just ours to use.
Just think about how we farm animals that we eat.
This is just stuff?
Yeah.
They just exist. Do what you want to them. Category 2 is
A view in which We may still see animals as property, but we value them insofar as we benefit.
Basically, animals are property that mean something to us.
Okay.
Just think of a pet or a workhorse, and therefore we protect them.
Laws passed in that vein would be done to help animals, but the ultimate beneficiary is humans.
Okay.
And then the third approach is that animals, well, they have some approximate equality to humans. Approximate.
And this one they told us is harder to find. An example could maybe be animal testing bans on chimpanzees.
We're providing protection for them because we think it's the right thing to do for them.
Yeah, so anyway, it's a helpful framework, but the problem is like any certain type of animal can actually like fit into more than one bucket.
This is a rabbit.
The rabbit.
Like, consider a rabbit. I feel deeply connected to rabbits.
A rabbit can be a pet.
Okay.
And in that category, they kind of have like the highest level of protections. Like you have to feed them, you have to like keep them warm. But also,
a rabbit can be
Mess him up.
a prey animal.
you know, something you hunt for
A
sport.
rabbit can be an animal
Medical research with rabbits is behind the development of most prescription drugs.
who's tested upon in the lab,
These lab rabbits, they actually have more protections than the ones that are
raised almost like in a factory farm for fur.
Mittens and liners, hats.
You're just gonna need a few ingredients. You'll obviously need some rabbit.
Or for food.
I'm going to cut the rabbit.
Then you just twist it off.
A rabbit cuts across all these categories.
And it's just context here. Context is the thing that slots the rabbit into one or another of these categories.
right. Like we kill rabbits all the time for food or fur, but let's say somebody kills your pet rabbit, that could be a felony.
Wow.
This was a pet with a name that changed sort of the protections that it had.
It?
She had. Pronouns becomes this whole thing.
Yes.
Right. This is funny because it's like the other pronoun battle that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah, which seems silly, but like it gets to this question of like what category are they? You know, are they something or someone?
Right.
Right. And it's not just rabbits. Like, take dogs.
Okay.
Like, if your dog gets run over, you get whatever you bought the dog for. Like, you know, like the $50 adoption fee.
Oh, wow, that's cold.
On the other hand,
When you die, you can leave your dog or cat all of your money.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild.
And you can really see the court struggling with this contradiction. Like there was this one case where a dog was run over in front of his owner,
The court says, look, this dog was a family member.
and the family got to sue for emotional distress.
Wow.
And then there was this other case in Texas where they ruled, yeah, the dog is property.
And then they literally say, not like a toaster.
Ah.
Okay. And this confusion about what animals are, like what they deserve from us in the law, like all of that, like that is what the jury was thrown into when the judge left it up to them to decide what the value of the piglets were.
The value of the pig meant something different to different people.
The conversation was all over the place.
And they were bouncing around these categories too. Like on the one hand,
There were some pretty impassioned arguments about, you know, the inherent value of life.
there was this religious view in the room.
Let's just say they have us all.
Also, like,
Always had dogs, cats, fish, hamsters, kind of you name it growing up. They were my best friends.
I just love them. Love animals.
you know, it was a group of people that cared about animals. But also some of them had strong feelings about property.
Somebody brought up like an example of if I have a rust bucket of a lawnmower sitting in my backyard, can somebody just come in and take it and go, well, they're not using it.
You know, what if I had a paperclip in my hand? Would it have value to me and someone else would throw it away?
Which sparked a lot of conversation about the value of the pigs to Smithfield.
Is there any value to a dead piglet? You know, are they put into fertilizer? Are they put into feed?
Wow, they are really going all over the place here.
Yeah.
Everything someone was saying about value made sense, but you put all those legitimate thoughts together, they conflicted.
You know, and we had been deliberating for 7 hours at this point. I'd heard.
And I says, I'm not sure we're going to get this resolved. And he says, well, I want you to go talk to the one gal that agrees with you and see if you guys would even budge. So I went over and talked to this gal. I said, I really think we owe it to everybody, to us as jurors, to the defendants, to the to come up with a unanimous decision.
court clerk called me.
On the phone?
Yeah, well, said, there's a verdict. You should come in. Judge calls the jury in. When the jury walked into kind of the jury seating area, and they walked in, 2 single file lines, got into these 2 rows, 8 jurors. I was like on the side of the table so I could look straight at them. They didn't really give me eye contact, and they looked kind of avoidant.
Oh boy.
The defendants were present. I asked the jury foreperson to identify them.
The foreperson raised their hand.
So, sir, has the jury reached?
The judge asks them if they had come to a unanimous decision.
Yes.
The man says yes.
Yeah, they reach a verdict. Let's get ready.
Wayne stands up.
Clerk reads the verdicts, and I'll ask that the people in the courtroom to remain silent.
And the clerk starts to read.
State of Utah versus Wayne and Sitchfield. Case number 181-500-061. We, the jurors in the above case, find the defendant Wayne and Sitchfield as follows. Counsel.
First burglary.
Not guilty.
Yeah. And then theft.
Wait, what? Not guilty?
Whoa! Both not guilty.
I did kind of a double take. I was like, oh, we won.
Wow. Huh. And wow, I'm now so curious what these jurors said happened behind the scenes.
Well, actually, one of the jurors we spoke to, she kind of had this thought, this metaphor that really helped her kind of come to her decision, and apparently helped a lot of the jurors in the room.
I just visually saw this pig just sitting in a box. And I thought, okay, who's holding this box and what value does this pig have? And I started voicing this analogy out loud, and I said, and I mentioned this juror's name, and I says, if you're holding this pig has huge amounts of value to you. I said, if I'm holding this pig, it has value to me. It's a living, breathing animal. It has a conscience. It's alive. And I said, what if we put it in the hands of Smithfield Farms? Does this pig have value?
But wouldn't that logic just, either you can say it had value to him, so it is a crime, or it didn't have value to Smithfield, who he took it from, so no value there, not a crime. Basically, this logic just lets the jury vote for whoever they want to vote for, right?
I mean, some of the jurors we spoke to didn't see it that way.
I did it by the books. I did what was legally presented to me on a document that was agreed upon by all parties.
They felt like they were following the letter of the law.
Huh.
But at the same time, this other juror we talked to,
Not having an answer to the question of value gave me the instructions of it's okay to make that moral decision.
she said she did feel like there was space for her to do what she felt was right. And, this is part of what Wayne was trying to do, to make it a moral decision. Even just giving them names, Lily and Lizzie, which, by the way, even the prosecution at one point started using.
Once you start seeing people referring to them by the name, then kind of conceptually you're recognizing that there's something more than, Smithfield 245.
Like one of the jurors told us.
I don't remember a lot of things from that trial, but I remember those 2 piglets' names.
And according to Justin, who actually interviewed all the jurors himself for his own research.
I think there were some moral pulls there, but they were still looking for a legalistic, kind of hook to land on.
Both these ways of thinking were in the room. They both played a part.
Okay, now just zooming out, what did this case change after everything?
Well, in a legal sense, not much, really.
Wow, that's not the answer I expected you were going to say.
So the best they could have hoped for was that actually there would be a guilty verdict and they could bring it to an appeals court. And within an appeals court, it could change case law. But this,
funny, he was too successful too early.
Yeah, and what actually ended up happening is that state legislators, after this case, passed this law that said, you can't use the animals being sick and therefore worthless as a defense for taking them.
So it's really backfired. God.
Legally in Utah, it does sort of seem that way.
Yeah, and like the other thing that seems to have come out of this is that companies and like prosecutors they're like, okay, well, that was a disaster.
They don't want to go through that again.
Let's stop charging these activists with theft and, you know, maybe just charge them with trespass so we don't get into this whole like value debate.
Right, because otherwise we're drawing attention to the thing that we don't want to draw attention to. Like, it's
Yeah.
like they're just they're ducking the fight.
Totally. Like, there was this whole other case in Wisconsin where 2 weeks before the trial was supposed to start, they dropped the charges. And he and his team actually wrote in and they were like, no, we still want this trial.
Everything about this guy's story in these legal cases feels upside down, you know?
But if you think about it, it makes sense. Wayne actually needs the courts. He needs this platform to force people to really sit in the confusion and grapple with these questions.
Right.
You know, like one of the things Justin told us is
Often people can just turn away. If you're uncomfortable with something, you just look away or you have an explanation. But these cases don't allow that, right? You're on the jury, forced to confront it.
and that's exactly what happened to the jurors in this case. And going through that, it bonded them.
We all had each other's phone numbers, and we thought, man, it would be nice just to get together and talk outside of here.
So I invited everybody over to the house.
You know, they would get together over dinners.
One of the jurors brought over his pizza oven. We've actually got to be pretty good friends.
I'm curious, have you guys talked at all about like eating pork or like the sort of like the pigs, like that element of it? Has that come up?
Initially, like when we very first kind of got together, we talked about it, and I think most people still do eat meat.
You know, I used to have a habit of I jog on Saturdays, and kind of my thing was I'd come home and cook up some bacon. My daughter said, well, you can't do that anymore. You can't eat bacon anymore. I'm like, all right, that's true. And so it did. It kind of changed. But you do. It's hard after years and years of being in a certain way to completely change. The fact of the matter is, no matter what all these activists do and everything, protein, meat from animals is going to be used by a good portion of the public. But can it be done in a way that's humane? They were on a farm. They're not in these processed facilities where they're in a cage. Where can we find that? And we actually found a place north of us here up in Parowan.
I'm not gonna lie. If I see like a nice dollar slice of pepperoni or something, it still is appealing to me, but it's just not something that I've gone back to.
Maybe despite the fact that like there's not really legal precedence in this case and there's law from Utah, Justin, he told us like case points at this shift in the way we see and therefore like the law will see animals.
Increasingly, science and sort of our own human understanding of animals is making it clear that animals, are not property. And, that's part of the reason that I enjoy talking to these jurors and have spent so many hours doing so from different cases is people who have never thought about animals and the law and their status, when they are confronted with these issues, they do overwhelmingly say, that's interesting. And whether they acquit or convict, it wasn't easy for them and it wasn't obvious. And that's sort of how I see animal law going. It's going to be this incremental process that's going to be hard. Sometimes, just like with the jurors, it's going to be tearful. But fundamentally, all of the field of animal law is about asking people to answer this question for themselves.
This episode was reported by Sindhu Gnanasambandan and Jay Menard and produced by Sindhu Gnanasambandan with help from Pat Walters. It was edited by Alex Neeson and Pat Walters and fact-checked by Diane A. Kelly. Special thanks to Kim Naderfane Petersa, Nathan Peerboom, Joe Eidman, Sam Kozlov, Rachel Gross, and Alex Ayo. Wait. What happened to the piglets? Lily and Lizzie.
Yeah, so after Wayne took them from the farm, he brought them to this like sanctuary where they were nursed back to health. And kind of bizarrely, some months after the trial, the jurors, they actually went to go visit them, like Justin invited them to do that.
Interesting.
Last time we had seen them, I mean, you know, teeny tiny little piglets, like a mango.
Little teeny thing. We were just amazed to see these.
Massive animals.
Wow.
Anyway, the thing that really stood out that they said was this one little detail about how they looked.
Their skin is so white.
They're white. It's just this feature of this breed that's really common in big farms. But what that meant for them is that they basically couldn't go in the sun without getting sunburned.
Huh.
Yeah, and I just have this image stuck in my head of Lily and Lizzie, these like two giant pigs with like paper white skin laying in the shade of a tree on this farm so they don't get sunburned.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm from the Bay Area, California, and here are the staff credits. Radiolab is hosted by Lulu Miller and Latif Nasser. Soren Wheeler is our executive editor. Sarah Sandbach is our executive director. Our managing editors are editors. Dylan Keefe is our director of sound design. Our staff includes Jeremy Bloom, W. Harry Fortuna, David Gable, Maria Paz Gutierrez, Sindhu Naina Sambandan, Matt Kielty, Mona Modgaoker, Alex Nisa, Sarah Kari, Natalia Ramirez, Rebecca Rand, Anissa Vitze, Arian Wack, Molly Webster, and Jessica Young, with help from Gabby Santos. Our fact checkers are Diane Kelly, Emily Krieger, Natalie Middleton, Angeli Mercado, and Sophie Samai.
Hey, Radiolab. Michael, Tacoma, Washington. Leadership support for Radiolab science programming is provided by the Simons Foundation and the John Templeton Foundation. Foundational support for Radiolab was provided by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation.
Every day, WNYC Studios is working to get closer to New York and to New Yorkers. The underwriting we get from businesses helps power our independence. Learn how your organization can join in at sponsorship.wnyc.org.
A state of fury, he said, and instead of hitting his wife, he smashed his fist into the bathroom mirror and then realized that he had to leave the house or he was going to do damage to her.
And so he says that, and you're like, okay, yes, come over now. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, later that night on the other side of town,
his wife went into hiding, literally disappeared for 6 months and didn't tell anyone where she was because she was terrified that he was going to kill her.
This story made us wonder, is David's friend,
is he unusual? Or
does everybody...
Big news! Radiolab is headed to the Tribeca Festival podcast stage for a special live show in NYC. We'll be headlining the podcast program with this one-night-only live show at the festival's 25th anniversary. Come out on June 9th. I think I can safely promise that it will be sweeter than anything you have ever seen or heard. Tickets are available now at tribecafilm.com/audio. That's tribecafilm.com/audio.
Wait, you're listening. Alright.
Okay.
You're
Listening
to Radiolab.
Radio
From
WNYC.
Rewind. Hey, I'm Latif Nasser. This is Radiolab. One of our all-time most popular episodes was From Tree to Shining Tree, which was about these vast networks hidden in the forest floor.
She began thinking about the forest that exists underneath the forest.
That's Robert Krulwich, who was one of our hosts at the time. If you haven't heard the episode, you really should. We profiled this scientist, Suzanne Simard, who discovered, to even her own great surprise, these deeply complex, interwoven mats of tree roots and mushroom threads connecting trees together, helping them communicate, even share resources. Like there's a literal underground economy in every forest you've ever been to.
Turns out one tree was connected to 47 other trees all around it. It was like a huge network.
The trees that were the biggest and the oldest were the most highly connected. It's just this incredible communications network that, people had no idea about in the past because we didn't know how to look.
So that was back in 2016. A couple years after that, the producer of that episode, Annie McEwen, brought to us another story that shocked us all over again because we realized that whole forest floor thing, that was just half of the story. So, in celebration of spring and all the things growing around us right now, we wanted to replay that episode about the other half of the story of what's going on in forests. And to do so, of course, that perfect pairing of producer Annie McEwen and emeritus Radiolab host Robert Krulwich.
Okay, we're ready. We're at long last ready to begin.
Okay, so for this episode, I wanted to call you because I recently learned about this new layer to the story.
Okay,
So in Tree to Shining Tree, we looked down, under the ground.
right.
Where do you think we should look now?
Well, I guess I'd be inclined, if there was more news, I'd do more down. I think.
Well, how about instead of looking down, we peer into a type of down that is in the up.
Oh, okay.
And to take us there, alrighty, forest royalty. I've read that you are known as the queen of the canopy. Is that
Yes,
true? Is
that's
that where did that come from?
I have no idea where that came from. I've also been called the mother of the forest canopy.
Oh my
And now that I'm
goodness.
67 years old, I think it's going to be sort of the dowager queen or
I think
the
you should be the
grandmother of
empress.
forest canopies.
What about the This is ecologist Nalini Nadkarni, who, like a lot of kids, spent a large part of her childhood up in trees.
You grab a branch, you put your leg over it, and suddenly you're up in the treetops. And for me, it was like kind of my place. I had this sort of chaotic, large family. I'd come home from school with chores and homework, but the treetops of these 8 maple trees that lined my parents' driveway were kind of my refuge.
She'd spend whole afternoons up there just sitting and wondering.
I look at the leaves and I go like, why does this branch have much yellower leaves than that branch, which has oranger
Such a good
leaves?
question.
And it's like, well, what is going on? What is this, branch independence? Or, I'd watch squirrels jumping from one tree to another and just think, God, where do they go? And what if I attached a spool of thread to the back of one of them and I could trace where they go? So, but it was a place for my imagination to sort of run wild.
Nalini grew up and followed that imagination to study ecology in grad school.
This was back in the early 1980s. And I was just starting out and I came to my graduate committee and I said, I know what I want to do with the rest of my career. I want to study the forest canopy. And they said, well, that's kind of like Tarzan and Jane stuff, with so many questions to ask and answer on the forest floor. Why do you have to go into the canopy?
At that time, canopies were just basically not studied. They were hard to get up into, and there didn't seem to be a lot of point. The scientific thinking was, there's just not a lot going on up there.
But there was something about the canopy that I kind of just had this intuition that it's not enough to just stand on the ground and look up.
And so, with some modified mountain climbing equipment, she began to climb these giant old-growth trees in the Olympic rainforests of western Washington.
Which is what's called a temperate rainforest.
Are these the places where in the morning the fog from the Pacific Ocean comes rolling in?
Yeah.
And the tree just gets in every morning bath of just
Yeah,
pure
and the tree just
moisture.
goes...
Yeah.
So Nalini climbs up into the canopy of this giant big leaf maple tree.
And I throw my leg over a branch and I'm sitting up there and I'm anchored with my rope and I'm looking around. I just see this enormous 3-dimensional panoply of moving leaves and moving twigs.
The branch she's sitting on, as well as all the branches surrounding her, are covered in this super thick layer of
this amazing growth of mosses and lichens and ferns.
Kind of like the tree is wearing this very unruly green shag carpet.
You get the sense of being in a place that looks very simple from the forest floor, but is actually this kaleidoscope of life.
Her job up there was to take samples of the moss that was growing on these branches.
I had to cut off chunks of it.
So, using some clippers, she begins to cut down into that moss on the branch she's sitting on.
And as I peeled back those mats of mosses,
beneath, instead of just bare branch,
I saw that there was all this soil up there.
This branch has a foot of soil piled up on it.
Oh, wow.
Soil that formed over many, many years of mosses and leaves dying and decomposing right there on the branch.
It's so weird because you're sitting up there in the canopy like 100 feet above the ground, and then you're digging your fingers into the soil that could be the soil that's, in your backyard garden, for goodness sake.
You can imagine getting your gardening gloves out and planting rows of tulips 100 feet in the air.
There were like invertebrates in it. There were earthworms in it.
Tree worms?
Yes.
That is so weird.
I know.
Even the stars of the old episode, the fungi, were there.
Really? So the mushrooms have climbed up the tree as well, to sort of
Yes,
do their thing.
they're sharing resources. They're helping the tiny plants up there communicate with one another.
The same as on the forest floor.
It's almost like she stumbled into a perfect miniature of the forest floor she had just climbed up away from. And straddling a branch way up high in the air, she's like,
huh, well, that's cool.
This was in the 80s, and since then there have been so many more well that's cools, because more and more scientists have been accessing this new world using cranes and ropes or building platforms, or my favorite way up into a tree is this French guy, Francis Allais, who pioneered the use of the dirigible to access the canopy.
Oh, wow.
There's incredible pictures
So it's
of
a balloon trip?
It's a balloon
Out of
that
a balloon?
floats, that floats over the tops of this green ocean, just kissing the tops of the trees, and the scientists can just gently lean and trim this and that. Anyway, so one way or another, all over the world, scientists began getting themselves up into trees and documenting what they saw there. And some of the coolest discoveries were found on the west coast in the old-growth redwood forests. And oh my gosh, these giants were found to be holding these pockets of soil up to 3 feet deep, and growing in this soil were flowers, berry bushes, mosses, lichens. They found salamanders living hundreds of feet in the air who spend their entire lives never touching the ground.
I'm waiting to say a small deer or something like that. Something very weird.
I don't have a small deer for you, but I do have something that I find totally bizarre, which is that up in redwoods, scientists have found these tiny aquatic creatures.
An aquatic creature?
It's aquatic, yeah. It's like this shrimp-like...
They found a fish?
Pretty much, it's like this shrimp-like thing, a species of something called a copepod.
Oh.
Copepods, which is actually this whole subclass of creatures. They're the most abundant animal in the ocean and a huge part of the diet of baleen whales. This thing is like swimming around in these mossy mats, and no one knows how it got there. Anyway, these tree canopies that up until the mid-80s everyone thought were just pretty much empty, not only are they not empty, they actually hold about 50% of all terrestrial life on the planet.
Did
A
you
lot
say
of that
50%?
is 50, 50, yeah.
Wow, that's a weird number. That you're saying 50% of it is up in the air somewhere?
Yeah, up in the air, up in trees.
Whoa.
Which, sounds kind of unbelievable, but when you think of places like the Amazon, all those bugs, birds, plants, animals, it adds up. And most of this life has made a home in these canopy soils.
What? Soil on the tree branches?
And when ecologist Karina Mifune learned about these canopy soils,
I fell in love. I was like, okay, there's like a forest in a forest on a forest. I need to research this.
And she told me that thinking about these canopy soils like these tiny, perfect replicas of the forest floor below wasn't quite right. Because these canopy soils, they have something that the forest wants.
Huh. Well, what would that be?
Well, back when she was a grad student in the Washington Olympic Peninsula, Karina collected soil samples from the forest floor throughout the year.
And she noticed that in the spring growing season, there aren't as many nutrients available.
Specifically, there was a lack of phosphorus and nitrogen, two important things that every plant in the springtime wants to help them, put forth new leaves, to help them grow.
And those are rare. Plants love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And in contrast to the last episode where we talked about trees cooperating with each other.
All these trees that were of totally different species were sharing their food underground. Like if you put
Karina told me that in that same sharing forest, when resources are scarce,
There's a ton of competition on the forest for trees have roots grafted together. There's mycorrhizal networks, that are spanning across. There's this big battle to, uptake nutrients.
But Karina had also taken samples of the canopy soils, and she saw that during these times of scarcity below,
These canopy soils had so much more nitrogen and phosphorus available for plant uptake compared to their forest floor counterparts.
meaning that this soil for a plant was creme de la creme.
It's just amazing.
Downstairs, there's shortage. Upstairs, there's abundance. When it's crumbs down below, up in the sky, held aloft above the plebeian masses, is like a Thanksgiving dinner. And when Karina learned this, she thought, I don't know.
But what do these canopy soils mean? Because they're not just hanging out there. They're not just there for no reason, right?
She's right, they're not. These sky gardens, they get even better.
better at what? Better at what?
Well, let's just say they're not alone up there.
Well, what's about to happen?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Alrighty.
Right after this short break. Hi, Lulu here, and this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as someone who reports on mental health, who likes talking to people about their mental health and what they look to in science, in the natural world, in faith, in friendship, wherever it may be, to help guide them through the rough patches of life, I just wanted to take a moment to say what seems to help people turn corners, find relief, get out of ruts, and even flourish is having someone with you. As much as we can feel private about our mental health struggles, you do not have to go it alone. So this May, why not treat your mental health to a buddy? And who better to talk to than a fully licensed mental health therapist? With over 30,000 therapists available, BetterHelp has someone you can talk to available at pretty much any time that's convenient for you at the push of a button. And because finding the help you need often depends on the therapist-client vibe, rest assured, with BetterHelp, you can switch providers at any time. Remember, truly, your mental health matters, and you don't have to go it alone. Find the support you need anytime with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/radiolab. That's betterhelp.com/radiolab.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency is fighting for its life.
I've never been a big fan of FEMA. It really doesn't get the job done,
FEMA's a disaster.
FEMA's a dirty word.
People are waking up in droves to the FEMA camps.
How did the agency tasked with saving us become so distrusted and despised? Listen to American Emergency, the movement to kill FEMA, from WNYC's On the Media.
Lulu,
Latif,
Radiolab, back to Annie and Robert, where we were just about to learn the true superpower of those gardens in the sky. Right. So to understand this wizardry, we need to go back to Nalini
Fine with me.
and this amazing discovery that she made.
Okay, so I remember sitting on this tree.
She's back up in a tree in the Washington rainforest, digging around in this canopy soil.
And I began seeing these root systems that were running up and down the branches of these trees.
They didn't look like they belonged to moss or ferns or any other plant you could see up there.
And there were fine roots all the way up to, some of them were the diameter of my wrist. I mean, these were gigantic roots.
What?
And I thought, well, that's weird. What are these roots doing here? So I began just tracing the roots that I was finding.
Like you took hold of one root in your hand and
Yeah,
sort of like went
exactly.
backwards like a
Right,
string.
exactly like it's like following a string. Exactly.
She gently excavates this root, scooting along the branch as she uncovers it.
I was tied in so I could sort of swing around and move from one branch to another. I had my water bottle with me, so then whenever it began difficult to sort of unstick the root, I could just throw a little water on it, keep going, keep following it. It was like, I don't know, it was like being a detective.
Well, what did you think it was going to lead to?
I had no idea. I thought, well, maybe there's some sort of vascular plant that I'm not aware of that's here, but I don't think so. So then
She follows the root all the way back to its beginning.
And oh my gosh, its origin was a dead end in the tree itself.
What?
The big tree, the one Nalini is sitting in, is growing roots from its branch
and snaking underneath these mats of soil, of canopy soil.
Let me think about this. Somehow it realizes that it could find soil high up somewhere, like, and so it just takes its roots and its roots travel up and go whoop to the left. Say, let's root not only where we normally root down there, but let's root up here.
Yes.
Whoa. So things that you thought were below can move above, way above, high above you.
Yes. It was a real revelation.
And Karina thinks that it's during a drought or during spring growing season when resources on the forest floor are scarce that these big trees.
That's when they can tap into their canopy soils. It's like they're like,
hey, there's a bunch of really great stuff here to suck on, so why don't you put out a root out here? And that's exactly what these trees do.
I kind of always compare it to like a secret cabinet that has all the good snacks in it. It's like if you were teaching a preschool, it's like, well, all of the school children are fighting over the snacks and fighting over these resources. You just go into your, canopy soil closet and you got your good snacks up there.
Because we're looking for those special minerals like the phosphorus and stuff, and that's where we can find it.
Right, and it's finding it in its hat.
You're finding it in its hat. That's a nice way of putting it, yes.
Yeah.
That's a lovely way of putting it. Yes. The expression, I'm going to eat my hat, has now got a whole new
Oh,
meaning.
yes, Robert. I love that.
Yeah.
One thing that both Karina and Nalini told me is that this is a new field.
There is just so many things to be found high above the forest floor.
Like, for instance, Karina told me sometimes there are actual trees growing up there.
And I've seen like a 5-foot spruce growing out of a nook of canopy soil. Wow. And you'll see a lot of like baby maples growing up in the old maple. So it's like, like a little nursery.
Wait a second, you mean there's a tree growing on the tree?
That's right.
On the branch?
In the soil on the branch.
Oh.
And who knows? Maybe as more people study the canopy, we'll find little trees on those trees. And maybe there will be little trees on those trees on those trees.
Yeah. It's fractal, like littler plants off the ground, and then little on them is the moss, which is little plants on top of little plants. So there's little layers and layers and layers of life, and the more you go up, the more the layers you will find. That's very cool.
Thank you, Annie McEwen, for reporting and producing that gorgeous episode and leaving us with that image of not turtles all the way down, but trees all the way up.
This episode was reported and produced by Annie McEwen. Special thanks to Kiyomi Taguchi, Michelle Ma, and Nina Ernest. A huge thank you to Michael Werner and Joe Hansen and the team at PBS Overview. They tipped us off about Karina's research. They were the ones who got us excited about canopy soil in the first place. You can actually see all that gorgeous shag carpeting in the forest in their beautiful video, vivid color. The video features Karina and other people who dedicate their lives to saving what's left of the old growth forest. You can check that out on our website or on theirs. So thank you to them. And special thanks, of course, to the many-ringed tree trunk that is Robert Krulwich, coming back on the show to talk trees with us. Thank you for doing that, Robert. We love you. That guy's all bark, no bite. You know what I mean? That's why I like him. That's all for us. Catch you next week.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm from the Bay Area, California, and here are the staff credits. Radiolab is hosted by Lulu Miller and Latif Nasser. Soren Wheeler is our executive editor. Sarah Sandbach is our executive director. Our managing editor is Pat Walters. Dylan Keefe is our director of sound design. Our staff includes Jeremy Bloom, W. Harry Fortuna, David Gable, Maria Paz Gutierrez, Sindhu Naina Sambandan, Matt Keelty, Mona Mudgaukar, Annie McEwen, Alex Neeson, Sarah Kari, Natalia Ramirez, Rebecca Rand, Anissa Vitze, Arian Wack, Molly Webster, and Jessica Young, with help from Gabby Santos. Our fact-checkers are Diane Kelly, Emily Krieger, Natalie Middleton, Angeli Mercado, and Sophie Samai.
Hi, I'm Aubrey, calling from Salt Lake City, Utah. Leadership support for Radiolab's science programming is provided by the Simons Foundation and the John Templeton Foundation. Foundational support for Radiolab was provided by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation.
WNYC's journalism and storytelling is heard by millions of passionate listeners. Sponsors of our programming gain our listeners' attention and their respect. Learn about how your organization can support WNYC and WNYC Studios at sponsorship.wnyc.org.
Wait, you're listening?
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
Alright.
You're
listening
to Radio Lab.
Radio
From
WNYC.
See?
Yep.
Hey, this is Radio Lab. I'm Latif Nasser, joined by producer Sindhu Nyanasambandan.
Hey, Latif.
And what do you got?
Okay, so this one, it starts when this guy, Jay Menard, joined my meditation group.
Okay.
We're also both journalists. And so, one day we started talking about the kinds of stories we are drawn to.
Uh-huh.
And, we're both Buddhist, so we're interested in, impermanence, interconnection, and suffering, death.
And why death and suffering? Why is that a Buddhist,
Well, the idea is that when you look at the things that scare you, there's actually a chance for kind of a deeper truth to show itself.
Huh.
Anyway, it was this whole conversation, and then at some point we realized in our own attempts to find this kind of story, we've actually both been tracking the same guy.
What, really?
Hey, how are you all?
Hi,
Wayne.
This guy, Wayne Shunk.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So that's Jay. We actually ended up calling Wayne up together.
Great. He was in California at the time.
Oliver.
Oliver's there? That's your dog?
His dog was there.
Oliver, come here, buddy.
Oh.
Good boy, Oliver. So happy.
This little mutt.
He's from China.
And once Oliver settled down, Wayne started telling us about, oddly enough, his childhood dog.
So, I was not a very popular kid, not a very well-adjusted kid. I was fat. I was an immigrant. Did not have any social skills. I didn't speak English that well.
So Wayne grew up in this small little town in Indiana as one of the only Chinese kids.
Okay.
Had a lot of trouble in the friend department. But his family did have this dog.
And this dog was just the love of my life. Her name was Vivian, and
This black Labrador mutt.
every time when I came home from school, she literally jumps up and down, out of control. Vivian would cherish my every moment. She would cherish every part of me and didn't care about how fat I was and how dorky I was. She just loved me. But when I was, I believe, 9 years old, we went back to China for the first time.
They were taking a family trip.
Okay.
My main kind of recollection from